Friends, today we are going to talk about cell referencing in Excel. It's again in our series videos. We're going to talk about cell referencing. We may not talk about it in details, but we're going to take a look at a few things here and there that we can talk about. Majorly, we're going to look at the three types of cell referencing. Right, I've written some notes here. First of all, what is cell reference or a cell reference? A cell reference in Excel is a cell address or the address of the combination of columns or column letter, row number that identifies a cell in a worksheet. Or you can even say it is the location of the cell in the worksheet. For example, F3 refers to the intersection of column F and row 3. B3, for example, refers to the third cell in column E, and so on and so forth. You can actually say, when you're writing a reference to a cell, you write the column letter first and then the row number. For example, this one here that has our value 155, it has, or it is in column F and the row 3. And the moment you tap in it, you will see in the name box here having F3. The same applies to this, so many others. When used in a formula, cell references help Excel to find values the formula should calculate. For instance, to pull the value F3 to another cell, you use this simple formula, equal sign F3. For example, if I want to put that value 55 down here, I can just tap equal signs and then I tap F3. When I on the enter key, it pulls that same value down there to cell H6. To add up the values in cell F3 and G3, we use this formula, equal signs F3 plus G3, or equal sign sum F3 and G3, or you can even use a shortcut Alt plus equal sign and it calculates for you the sum of those two numbers. For example, I can actually use one of them. Let me use a formula. I can say equal signs F3 plus G3, like that. When I tap enter, it gives me that. But I can as well say equal signs using a function sum, open brackets. I tap on these two values. After tapping on the two values, I close the brackets and hit enter. It definitely gives me the same answer. Right, we have three kinds of cell referencing that we are going to base on today. We may not talk about everything, but actually we are going to talk about the three kinds of cell referencing. Fine. Three major types of cell references. One, there are three types of cell references commonly used in Excel, that is to say, relative, absolute, and mixed. When writing a formula for a single cell, you can go with any type. And if you intend to copy your formula to another cell, it is important that you use an appropriate address. Because relative and absolute cell references behave differently when filled in other cells. When you want to copy the same formula to different cells without changing the addresses, you definitely need an absolute cell reference. But when you want to copy the formula to different cells or to fill the formula in different cells while the addresses are changing, you definitely need the relative behavior. Yes, let us look at relative cell reference. Relative cell reference is one without the sign of a dollar in a row or column. So the moment you write an address like F3 without any dollar sign in either the row or the column, that one is relative cell reference or relative cell address. It can either be an address, a single address of a cell, or it can refer to a range of cells. For example, you can have A1 or A1 to B10. Those are serial relative references. By default, all cell addresses in Excel are relative. So, without changing anything, all relatives or all relative addresses, all cell addresses in Excel are relative. When moved or copied across multiple cells, relative references change based on the relative position of the rows and the columns. So, if you want to repeat the same calculation across several columns or rows, you need to use relative cell references. For example, to multiply numbers in column, let me say column L, let me write L, column L by 5. You enter this formula in, let us enter it in L O2. I have to change these addresses. O2. Enter this. L2 is 5. That is relative. Let us do it. Equals L2. The multiplication sign is either on number 8, you hold shift and 8, or you can actually tap on the multiplication sign in the numeric keypad on the keyboard when you're not using the laptop. So that is what you write. Actually, I forgot the numerical sign. The sign is important. The moment you forget it, it will behave like any other entry. Yes. So when you say L2 times 5, tap enter, the result is 20. And when you literally look at this, L2 has 4. 4 times 5 is actually 20. When copied from rows 2 to 3, the formula will change to the formula will change to L3. So our formula here was equal signs L2 times 5. Now when I copy this formula and I put it in cells, I copy it in the cell that is just below this one here, it will turn from L2 to L3. There are very many ways of copying. I can press Ctrl C and I come down and press Ctrl V. You see, it is changing. Or I can actually use the autofill handle, move it here, and I drag down. And the moment I drag, those formulas are going to be changing. When you double click in this, is L4 times 5. When you double click in this, let me try to zoom so that you can easily see this. So when I double click in this, you'll see that it is L3 times 5. That is relative behavior. The formulas copy to other cells, we change the addresses. You see, this address is L2, this one is L3, this is this one is L2, this is L3, and this one is L4. Let us look at absolute cell reference. What is absolute cell reference? Absolute cell references is the one with the dollar sign in the row and column. If the coordinates of the row and the column have a dollar sign, that one means it is an absolute cell reference. So absolute cell reference remain unchanged when feeding other cells in the same formula. Absolute addresses are especially useful when you want to perform multiple calculations with a value in a specific cell, or when you need to copy a formula to another cell with changing references. So you may want to copy the same value to a different range of cells. This one you'll need an absolute cell reference. For example, to multiply the numbers in column S by the numbers in T2, you input the following formula in column T, row 3, and they copy the formula down the column by dragging the fill handle or using the autofill handle feature in Excel. Let's take an example. If I want to multiply all these numbers, I want to multiply these numbers here in yellow. Let me remove this. Let's remove this. Yes, like that. So when I want to multiply all these numbers in yellow with 6, I want 6 to be absolute. This is the formula that I write. And that formula needs to have an absolute cell reference. I tap on this, then I say times. Now I want to multiply all of them by 6, so I have to make it absolute by putting $sign on all of them. On the row, when I tap enter, it gives me the first value. I use the autofill handle to find the rest of the responses, and here we go. When I tap in all these other cells, you can see that the H2, this cell address, remains constant throughout. Even when I reach this last one, it will be still B11, which was relative, and then H2, which was fixed. The relative references, A2, will change based on relative position of the row where the formula is dropped. While the absolute references, for example, $B, $2, will always be locked in the same cell, even when you copy. So that's why you have H2 fixed throughout all the column the column H, go down up to H. But when I leave, let me take an example. I leave this H2 relative. This is what happens. When I leave H2 relative, this is what happens when I move the $signs and I tap enter. The first one will be right, but when I drag through the rest of them, it will give me very big numbers because it will be moving. And when I tap in this last one here, you definitely see that it is B11, H10, which was not the case when I made the cells absolute. Let me actually take back my absolute behavior such that I can leave whatever I wanted you to see in here. Right. Fine, that is it. And lastly, let us talk about mixed cell referencing or mixed cell reference in Excel. A mixed cell reference contains one relative and one absolute coordinate, like A1. When you fix A, let's say $A and leave one relative, or you can actually leave a relative and fix one. There may be many situations where one coordinate or column should be fixed. For example, multiply a column of numbers, let's say column AB, by 3 different numbers, AC2 and AD2, and then copy it down and to the right. You say $AB3 times AC $2. Look at this. For example, to multiply a column of numbers, that is AB, that is a column, by 3 different numbers, AC2, AD2, and AE2. You put the following formula in SC3. Remember, 2 is fixed and AB is fixed. So when you want to multiply it then you copy it down to the right. This is what you are supposed to do. Make AB, this one here, fixed, and also make row 2 fixed, because here you can see AC is a different column, AB is a different column, and AE is a different column. So you want those columns to be changing. But then you don't want row 2 to change, and you definitely don't want AB to also change. So you say AB 3 multiplied by SC $2. It means in $sign AB3, you know the column coordinate, because the formula should always multiply the original numbers in column AB, unless otherwise. Now, let's look at this example. I want to log the values in this is column B3. I'm going to be multiplying them with H2, but I want to log 2. This is the row, and I want to log B, the column. First of all, remove these values, then you can get it properly. Zoom. You can say equal signs. Now I'm taking this cell, but I want to log B. So I tap on F4, it gives me absolute, it logs 3, then I log D. Times, I tap on 5, I want to log row 2, leave H relative. Tap on F4, tap on F4 again, that is it. $sign G3 times H $2. I tap enter. When I tap enter, it gives me the first value. Use the autofill handle to move down. When I move down and tap in this last one, especially, you will see that the G is locked and the 2 is also locked. So it means it is multiplying 50 with the 5, which gives us the 250. After this, I can actually drag the same. I can let me select all of this, then I drag the same to the right. And when I drag to the right, it still remains the same story. When I tap in here, in this last one, it is $sign G7, though this one would be J something, but it's still G7 and J2 put together. This one would be like J7 or anything, but I locked 2 and I locked B. So in all of these values that we have got, you will see, or you will bear me witness, that G is there and 2 is there simply because I gave them a fixed address. The row coordinate is relative since it needs to change for other rows. Yes, that's why here we left number 3 relative, because we need to change to 4, 5, 6, 7. But still in the same column G. Here the column coordinate is relative because we need to change from H to I and G. In SC $sign 2, you lock a row coordinate to tell Excel always to pick the multiplier in row 2. The column coordinate is relative because the multipliers are different in 3 different columns, and the formula should adjust accordingly. As a result, all the calculations are performed with a single formula, which changes properly for each row and column where it is copied. So the moment you fix a row and you leave a column relative, it will always be changing the column and leaving the row fixed. Thank you very much. I will give examples, but let us stop here for today. Now look at this example, and you definitely try it out using relative reference.